We got Mr. John in the building today. So, Mr. John, before we get things going, we just want to give you a second to let the people know what they should know about you before we get going and just kind of get them up to speed.
All right. My name's John Fish. We do, we own a couple medical clinics. Specifically, we help osteoarthritis of the knee. Also do some medical distribution, which kind of led me into opening a medical clinic. And topic of the hour is we also do COVID-19 testing, which is, as you know, has been kind of crazy lately.
See, it's crazy that you mentioned testing because it kind of looks like anything that's involved in any sort of medical field right now has been converted into some sort of COVID aid relief center. So you guys, what kind of testings do you guys do? Is it multiple testings, or how exactly does it work for the testings?
Our specific test, if you're high risk in a category, usually a senior or with severe medical issues, if you show any symptoms, that's kind of our criteria. We have to follow. We can't just screen people. So if you came up and said, I want to know if I have COVID, we really need to reserve those tests for the high risk, because you're not in a high risk category unless you have, some severe asthma or something in the respiratory system. So for us, we're looking to help those people that are potentially most at risk, and to find out if they do have it, if they need to quarantine themselves. For instance, in an assisted living facility, when you have seniors living together, one person gets it. It could be a nightmare. It can wipe out literally the entire floor of assisted living or a nursing home. So that's really the kind of the main focus, is to look after those people.
Okay, so it's initially, what I'm getting is like, it's initially a symptom-based diagnosis, and then that's what gets you guys to even do the test, because they're so limited. It has to be kind of obvious for a person to get a test?
Correct. And you hear a lot of talk about these rapid tests, and the government wants to, set up checkpoints and anybody can go. And the rapid test usually takes about 5 minutes or so to come back positive or negative. Those tests, and there's arguments. I actually had a discussion with one of our physicians today. He super believes the test, and I'm not there yet about how accurate they are. And again, this is all anecdotal discussions. I don't have any data, which is the big problem. Nobody has all the data. But to run these tests as a screen on everybody, and what if 20% of them have a false negative, which means 20% of the people potentially could have COVID-19, and they just got a clear bill of health saying, oh, I got my piece of paper, I'm good. They're asymptomatic, which means they're not showing symptoms, and they're spreading it like crazy, which is what the big fear is.
Wow. So see, that's crazy. I wanted to get to that, but then we just got right up to speed. So yeah, so I was hearing that not only are they not reliable, but exactly what you said, in most cases, it's the opposite, that people do have it, and then they get tested for a negative, and then they just keep spreading it. Because if you do have it, that's the weird thing about this one, is that it can just affect people differently. But usually it's the opposite. Like usually you would think that it would test positive and then the person really doesn't have it. But in this case, you're saying it's mainly testing positive people negative?
Potentially, not all of them, right? So, the test does work within reason, but there's a percentage of the people who say, I just got tested and I'm clean. So those rapid tests, we have to use them because rapid, and we need to know now. The tests we do is PCR testing, which is RNA and DNA based testing of the pathogen in this case being COVID-19, or really, it's the SARS-2, and not to get all technical, but SARS-2 causes COVID-19 or vice versa. But you know what I'm saying? So that test that we do is 99.9% accurate, because we identify the actual pathogen by RNA and DNA. Now, we get the test done today, we overnight it to the lab, but we'll find out tomorrow night, maybe the following morning. So it's not a 5-minute test, but we know for a fact that someone's going to have it or not.
Okay, so it started off, or not started off, but so SARS happened, and then wasn't there like a MERS, or not a MERS, a MERS?
It's MERS, but yeah, that's fine.
MERS, and then now we have global COVID-19. So it's kind of the same thing reoccurring. Just
Yeah, so
stronger?
they're all COVID. They're all actually all COVID coronaviruses. Okay,
Okay.
so SARS, MERS, and then SARS-2 is really what we're looking at.
Oh,
They're
okay.
all basically the same family. The problem with this particular one, and even the SARS and the MERS, they had a high death rate, the super high death rate. It was actually very scary, but the N, or how many people you affect, was less than one. So it dies out very quickly, and you show symptoms very quickly. So it's easier to stop that one. This one, if you are asymptomatic completely, or you don't show symptoms for 2 weeks, you've already infected a bunch of people, and the N rate is over one. It's actually, I think they said 2.5 or 3, which means for every one infected people, you infect 3. So it's an exponential growth, which is why everybody's so scared of this. I'm not sold on the death rate yet. I think most of the problem is we haven't tested enough people to get an accurate death rate, which, is a percentage of people who get it actually pass away. So because of that, the death rate is people are like, oh, it's 10 times the flu, and it's actually not. I think when all the data finally comes out, and we won't know for a while. So I reserve the right to be completely wrong here, but I think when the data comes out, the death rate will be a lot lower. However, the infection rate is so high, it's making everybody nervous, which means if the infection rate spreads very quickly, or the actual virus spreads so quickly that we overrun hospitals, that's their biggest fear. Not as much as the death rate, but just how fast it spreads.
See, I love that you mentioned the ratios that they were giving, because I had a conversation with a friend of mine maybe like a week ago about that exact same thing, about how when a person looks on whatever, mainstream news network, and they see, just let's say 100 people are test positive, and then let's say 30 or 40 people are dying. That's 30-40%. That's going to definitely cause fear and anxiety in a person, and that's contagious in itself. But it's exactly what you said. We just haven't tested enough people. So it's almost like the more people we test, the more people we know that have it. So I love that you said that, because I feel like that's throwing a lot of people off, as they think not only that it's 10 times as worse, but also that it's got such a high death rate, when in reality, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be insensitive, but I personally don't think that in like a number. I just looked at a chart the other day, and it just had the Black Plague, it had Zika, it had SARS, it had a bunch of them. And COVID-19, in comparison to a lot of the things that have happened in the last even couple hundred years, really isn't that bad. Yet it's being viewed as, the end. And I mean, I don't even want to get started on if we know whether or not China's numbers are accurate, but
They're not.
yeah, exactly, right? Definitely not. So who knows? What do you think's going on over there?
Um, well, there's a couple things, and one of the arguments is it's really the infection rate that is causing the concern, right? So if you look at and everybody's been saying this, how many people die of the regular flu every year?
Like 80,000, right?
Well, it's
Or
average. It's between 29 and 59,000 people, right?
yeah, 59. Okay.
Um, so it's a pretty big number, and nobody cares. Nobody gives a nobody's washing hands and social distancing over 40, 50,000 people a year dying. And the one thing is because the infection rate is not that bad, meaning yes, the same type of people are passing away, although the flu can affect children far worse than COVID-19. According to Johns Hopkins, there's 88,000 deaths so far on 1.5 million total confirmed. Well, why those numbers you have to take logically is if you have 88,000 deaths and 105 or 1.5 million people, all the people that they're counting, those deaths are assuming that they had COVID-19, and sometimes they're not even being tested. They're just marked off as they died from COVID-19, which is probably right. But that's also going to skew the numbers, because the people who are getting tested are what? The people showing symptoms, the people who it's really affecting, right? So how many people are actually, as a percentage, passing away? According to Johns Hopkins, right now it's just under 6%. I would argue that it is a lot less than that. One is anything from China. I'd throw out completely. I did hear that China's been forthcoming on a breakdown of the virus from a laboratory standpoint. They were able to identify it and share that with everybody, but they are definitely not sharing the total deaths or the total people. It's just not the case. I think, what does it say? China's 82,000 people have COVID. I call BS on that. It's going to be a magnitude more than, we're at 429,000. When people are saying, "Oh, the U.S. is the worst off," it's terrible. It's because we're testing more. Period. It's the only reason why we have more people confirmed. But again, so the world says, there's 88,000 deaths. We are barely over 1% as the U.S. is right now, and I still don't believe that number because I don't think we have all the data, which means I still think there's a lot more people who have it, walk around with coughs, and I don't feel that great, but I don't have COVID because look, I'm not on a ventilator, but they're still spreading it. So the flu is one tenth of 1%, and we're showing 1%. Yeah, it's 10 times the death rate. But again, until the data is in, I think we're overblowing the death rate, or we're premature in touting the death rate before we have data.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better. It's really throwing people off because they're just playing number games. These people. I also heard that they're really not relating a lot of these people's death, quote unquote, directly to COVID-19. Like, at least not the way that they're spreading it, because a lot of the major, the media and just any, like even the Hopkins, or just a lot of the major people are talking about how people test positive for COVID-19 and then they passed. But a lot of the times I've been hearing, as I've been digging into it, people coming forward and being like, well, he was struggling with that for years actually, and it just so happened, he went in and passed away, and he was tested because he showed symptoms. But how can we really relate somebody's death to COVID-19? Like, have they gotten that far yet to where they can actually confirm that a person has died from COVID-19? Or is it just COVID-19 causing people to have pneumonia, causing people to be on ventilators, and, bringing out all these pre-existing conditions that I guess, they were getting by on, a weak immune system, imbalance, or whatever it is. But now with COVID-19, is that bringing it out and kind of killing them, or is it COVID killing people? That's the confusion I'm having.
It's a pretty unique virus in that it does attack. And again, this is a little bit over my head, but the receptors in your lungs to process oxygen. So that's why you hear ventilators, right? Because they literally can't get enough air into their bloodstream, so they're having trouble breathing. Not to belittle this, it's pretty serious. When you get it bad, it's bad. Now, the people who are dying are the elderly and those with already existing conditions. Now, to be callous, you can say, well, unfortunately, they might pass away anyway. However, this is definitely the fast track, unfortunately. So you can't belittle it, but at the same time, you can't sensationalize it without the data, and it's data, and we don't have it, and I don't think we're going to have it for a while, just because of the sheer pace of it. And it's crazy. So that's my, again, it's my humble opinion, and I completely reserve the right to be wrong. But from what I'm hearing from doctors that I deal with, ER people, there's a friend of mine who's an ER doc in Maryland, and he's like, yeah, I got a floor full of ventilators in the ICU, and that's uncommon. So it is happening. It's just it's the severity and how quick it's happening. So it is something to be taken seriously. So I do the social distancing. We at home. I'm in Georgia right now. Our home's New Jersey. We don't go out of the house. We don't do anything. The kids don't play with the other kids, and we're doing our part. And I suggest everybody do the same. But at some point, we'll have enough data to make serious decisions on when we should go back to work and do things like that.
Wow. Well, I guess we're just going to have to wait, until we get the data. But as far as, just your journey through owning clinics and, being from New Jersey, you said.
Mhm.
So, like, what was the transition? Like, why'd you come down to Georgia? Did you expand your? So, like, you own the buildings or like the actual medical
It's just
company,
the practice, right?
the
So yeah,
practice?
there's a practice here, and there's a practice in New Jersey, and there are business partners here. That's one of the reasons we're opened up. But we're still open as a medical practice. I guess you get the essential tag where we're left to be open because we're treating people. For an ongoing treatment for pain, if we stopped right in the middle of it, it would affect them. But we do simple things. No one's in the waiting room. Everybody waits in their car. They're taken right back to the exam room. Treatments are performed, and then they're shuttled right back out. Everything's wiped down, and then we have the next patient come in. So it's some business as usual. And there are some people, like new patients coming in, has slowed down to a stop, which it should. But I'm fine with that. Our people are mainly in the high risk category, so we have to be extra special. Careful with them, and we are. So that's why we just happen to have a place here in Georgia and a place one in New Jersey, which if you look at the map, both of them are, hot spots.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, it's perfect. I'd rather be here right now than New Jersey. So that's at least in Gwinnett, at least. But
Yeah, sure.
you guys do knee therapies?
Yeah, so it's for very severe osteoarthritis of the knee, and as you get older, or even not, but mostly when you're older, the cartilage and the knee break down, and you end up being bone on bone. And we have a non-surgical solution that creates space. We add synovial fluid, which is or hyaluronic acid into the synovial fluid, which is what is in your body already. We just put more of it in there. The simple explanation is like oil in the car. If your oil is low, right, the engine runs hot because it's rubbing and it's painful for an individual. We add that hyaluronic acid in, and kind of rebuild the synovial fluid, cushions the knee, and reduces pain rather dramatically. And we have a couple other, processes that go beyond that. Other clinics that do what we do, and we have amazing results. And that's when you're in the middle of that, and people are walking for the first time in years and feeling great, and then you stop because it is a process. It takes about 6-7 weeks. You can't. I mean, you can, but you really don't want to stop midway when they're finally starting to feel relief. So we are still operating, and just in the pain relief side of things, the individuals feel it's severe enough that they're willing to risk coming out.
Wow. So does that just happen with age pretty much? Like it just eventually starts to rub on itself, and that's when people, are having issues walking and stuff. So you guys just
It,
kind of get in there and put back what was there. Or
yes,
is it like
you're correct. There's a couple things, and again, not to get too boring, but in that synovial capsule, the synovial fluid kind of wears out, meaning it kind of literally dissipates because your body doesn't make more of it as you get older. The bone on bone really rubs down synovial sites that make synovial fluid stop working. There's a series of things. Most of it is caused by age and unfortunately weight. When you are obese or overweight for years and years and years, that pounding, just simple walking on your knees, for every pound you weigh, you put 4 pounds of pressure per square inch on your knees. So if you're overweight, your knees are really carrying a lot of weight that they shouldn't, and they're not designed to, if you're supposed to be 150, 180 pounds and you're 250 pounds, over time it just wears out.
wow. Wow, that's so interesting. That's something that you don't think about, but it makes perfect sense that it would just be like such a simple solution. So you're saying people have in the past got like surgeries to fix that?
Oh, total knee replacement is what the common cure is, or fix.
Total knee replacement. Wow.
Mhm.
How does I don't even know how someone would go about getting a total knee replacement. That seems horrible.
Yeah, I think what there's like 70 or 80,000 a year that are done in the United States.
Okay, so I guess as far as just everything that's going on with the economy, like how have things been affected from the medical standpoint? Because obviously it's essential, but at what point in time did Like, did you guys have to start involving yourselves with like COVID testing, or was that just kind of convenient?
Um, for us, because of our background in the medical field, we had access to the test. And we have representatives that in different parts of the country. In New Jersey, for example, one of the assisted living facilities near us, one of the patients had COVID, and last I knew was on a ventilator and non-responsive. So then you look at, well, there's 80 or 100 other residents who are super high risk. So what do you do? Well, I happen to have access to that test. So one of the practitioners there, I said, I got the test. And so what did we do? We put the masks on, the gloves on, and went over and tested a lot of people, because you got to know who has it and who doesn't. And if somebody else has it, you got to get them out of there. Or literally, you could see half the people there pass because of their high risk status. So it was more of just a avenue we had, and it's not a moneymaker. It's just go try to help out. You know what I mean? Those people, we just happen to know them and try to take care of them.
Wow, that's really kind of you guys. Did anyone actually end up testing negative, or I mean positive?
Just thank God everybody else there so far came up negative, which is a home run, because it gives everybody a. So the staff, the problem you have in an assisted living facility is, when you have somebody that tests positive, if you don't have a way of testing everybody's got to be quarantined, which means the entire staff has to leave the facility. Well, who's going to take care of the 100 or 200 people that are dependent on the daily care? You can't just hire 30 people or 20 people or even 5 people in 10 seconds and say, okay, you're in charge, and everybody else who was there walks out. So it's I don't envy the nursing home assisted living facility directors, because they're in deep doo doo when someone tests positive. Because what do you do? Technically, everybody's got to self quarantine for 14 days. That means the staff, everybody. What do you do? So it's not a good look, and it's not a good situation. But from a business standpoint, even though we're again medical and we could argue essential, because we're not in an emergency room, or the people who deserve all the credit are the people who are helping those people in the ICUs. We're helping people with pain, which is great, but has nothing to do with this current issue. So those people deserve all the credit, because they are absolutely putting themselves at risk. That's doing my part. Went in and tested a bunch of people, and I'll probably do it again. Going home, for next week, and I'll do the same thing. I'll try to go into the next assisted living and try to test everybody if there's one positive case, and just keep going. But I'm not so concerned that I would get it, but I'm more concerned that I would spread it. So I already tested negative. So next week I'll probably get another test, make sure I'm not causing the problem.
Wow.
But you mentioned business. The business ramifications of this thing are going to be felt for years. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it'll come right back," and my fear is there's a lot of businesses that aren't going to come right back, even with the payroll protection loan. Have you heard it? You've been following that, the payroll protection loan program?
Yeah, they're trying to give people a free loan, but I heard that they actually are going to like own a share of your business or whatever it is that you use the money for.
The bigger loans, potentially the bailout type loans, the payroll protection plan. There's only $350 billion set aside for that. And it's for small businesses, even like ours, where we can cover 2 months worth of payroll, 2.5 months, really. That's the loan limit, is whatever your payroll was for the, average for 2019, the monthly average, you take that times 2.5, and that's the max loan they would give you. And if you continue to use that money for payroll and rent and utilities and nothing else, you don't have to pay it back.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Oh. But so when you shut down a restaurant, like some of these restaurants, I can't see how they can even come back. They're going to be so far behind. What about the servers who work on tips? They're all done. It's crazy. I don't understand how a lot of these businesses will be able to just pop, magically open back up when the market and the economy comes back. I just don't see it. I think it's going to be awful.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I hate that it had to happen now, but I really do hope it doesn't affect us for a couple of years, because See, the thing is, I feel like it's going to affect the people's mental state. Like the reason that the economy is going to take forever to bounce back, I don't think is going to be because of quarantine. I think it's going to be because people aren't going to act the same. That like movie theaters are done, sporting events are going to be done. Just even like they just like what they did is they just penetrated like the psychological or even sociological state of a person. Like people don't want to interact anymore, and like shaking hands is that's just going to be like a new like that's going to be something in the past. Like, oh, do you remember when we used to shake hands? I feel like some people are so traumatized, whether they get it or not, just because of the entire global pandemic, World Health Organization, and people like people are depression's on all time high. So I think that that's going to be what ultimately leads to the quote unquote stagnation, if that's even a word, of the economy getting back up to speed. But I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think? I mean, do you think it'll take a couple of years, or do you think once people realize that we really do have things under control, that we can just kind of get back to doing things how we used to?
Well, what's his name? Fauci, the um, our doctor here who's running the show for the White House, um, believes that once we flatten the curve, you've heard that term, then when we kind of lift the restrictions, but that we'll have a second wave of the virus spreading, and it's definitely going to keep people. Some people won't care, but how are they gonna do a football stadium again ever, right? When you're on top of people, movie theater, maybe a little, maybe with all the streaming services, you can get movies almost immediately anyway at home. That business will take a hit. And there's a lot of real estate tied up in movie theaters. I don't know. There's going to be so much money. The government can only put so much money. Somebody's got to pay the bill. So if the government's going to say, "Oh, we'll just bail them out and bail them out and bail them out, and we'll print money," that comes due. We're already so crazy in debt as a country, and then throw this on top of it. The bill will absolutely come due, and I think it's going to be devastating. And I think we were headed that way almost before this, and now you stop the world's largest of the history's largest economy ever, and then just stop it overnight. We were at like 3.5% employment, which is basically full employment if you want to depend on what your economic view is. Now we're way past 10, and it was in a couple of weeks. So people just aren't going to be ready to go back to work, and the employers aren't going to be able to just suddenly pay everybody again, even with all these loans and bailouts. And then this is why I think it's going to affect us for a long time. Is the government's going to be even more in debt? So what are they going to have to do? What are they going to do? They're going to raise taxes? Yep, they're going to raise taxes. And when you raise taxes, what happens? You kill investment. You kill entrepreneurs. You kill it all. So, or not kill it, but at least you slow it down. So no one's going to want to open another business in the middle of high taxes. So that's why I think it's going to linger a lot longer than even if some of the jobs come back, which they will. Which thank God they will. But I don't think this is going to be a blip like a lot of people are saying. Somebody's got to pay the bill eventually, and it's going to be all of us in their taxes.
Yeah, I think we stood a chance about maybe a week and a half ago if things just kind of turned right back on. But even today, they pushed things out until what is it, May 16th or 13th? I think it's 16th. Well,
Yeah, I heard Virginia's on lockdown till June 6th.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah. I just talked to somebody from Virginia today, so
that's new for me.
I didn't know
June
it.
6th for Virginia. So why? I mean, yeah, they're kind of right by New York.
No, DC. I don't know. I don't understand. We were joking around because Home Depot and Lowe's are open, and all the golf courses are closed. Right, so you have 100 acres worth of open space you're not allowed to walk around, but go get your paint and do your home project. It just doesn't make any sense. I was talking with everybody last week, and I said we're not going to slow this thing spread in a big way when all the supermarkets are open. Right, everybody's still going to the supermarket.
Yeah, everyone's still going everywhere. No one's respecting any of the curfews.
Well, even if you respect everything else, you eventually have to go to the supermarket. Eventually.
Yeah, I mean, you're
I'm
right.
saying you have to. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying, so if everybody's going into a confined space, how are we going to stop it?
And that's the crazy part is they're talking about giving people fines. I haven't heard of anyone that's got a fine. You go to the supermarket, it's more packed now. It's exactly what you just said. It's kind of
Mhm.
had like a reverse reaction, you could say. Because I mean, I personally haven't been going to any supermarkets specifically to not contract or pass on COVID-19, but even just driving by and just looking out the window, the cars are flowing like normal. I mean, yeah, maybe traffic has died down, but there's still the same amount of people at the same amount of times. At least here where we are. So it's weird. I mean, I don't consider this a quote unquote lockdown or shelter in place.
What I've seen, again, it's all anecdotal, right? I don't have any evidence other than just what I've seen when I'm driving around, driving to a clinic. In Jersey, we've been locked down. We're on 4 weeks already. So I know in Georgia, we kind of just started. Um, the first couple of weeks, the roads were empty. And then every day past that, there was a few more cars on and a few more cars because people are like, yeah, I'm going stir crazy. So they would make an extra trip. And here's the conflicting thing. They're all saying, please support local business, get carry out for all these restaurants. How do you get there? You got to go. You got to go. You got to go out to the restaurant. And then they're saying, but don't go anywhere. So a lot of conflicting results. You have from a political perspective, both sides saying things are real bad or things aren't that bad. And then but if you look at just the pure numbers of unemployment, I think we're gonna be in trouble for a little bit, but I think we're gonna be in trouble anyway. So with our national debt.
Do you think anyone's even going to want to go stand in line to vote? Or do you think the line's
That's a
going to
good
have to
point.
be 6 times as long because everyone's going to be 6 feet? Because I mean, think about it. Do you think people are going to do you think that's going to affect elections? People not wanting to go touch the same box 1,000 people just touched?
Um, so by the way, I wash my hands like 15 times a day because I know I touch my face too much.
Same.
Yeah. Um, that is, I hadn't really gotten past the summer. So yeah, for the election, it ought to be interesting to see if it has a huge push on negative turnout. That would be interesting. There's
Yeah.
definitely a possibility.
Yeah. It's just, we just don't know where this is going. But as far as the future, I mean, how long of a career have you had with the medical industry?
Um, I guess little 7 8 years.
7 8 years. So you're pretty deep in the industry. For the next so forthcoming years, where do you see your specific field going as far as the technology behind what you guys do and the results you've been getting from the technology that you guys use to help people with pain? Because I mean, yeah, COVID's a huge issue, but like you said, with time things will recover. So what are your
Hmm?
plans for the therapy? Like, is that a constantly improving thing, or is that
We're
just
super bullish on our game plan, which is to ride out obviously the near term, but our goal is to open more clinics, and the aging population are the amount of people in the country that we can help is going to triple over the next 15 years. So we'll have more people looking for relief than we'll have places to for them to go. It's crazy. So from our point of view, that's not going to go away. Um, there's no magic pill for this. It's a therapy that's proven and works. Um, hopefully, they come up with something that makes it easier than what we're doing for the patients, and we'll adapt and put that in our program. But the problem itself isn't going to go away quickly. Um, one of the being in the healthcare industry, are you familiar with David Sinclair?
To be honest, the name sounds familiar, but I have no idea where in my brain it sounds familiar. Like David Sinclair. Sinclair sounds familiar.
David Sinclair is he's a Harvard geneticist who runs the Harvard lab, among other things. The guy's amazing, and I fully suggest you look him up. One of the things that interests me in the future, because you brought it up, one of the issues that we have is aging, aging is, a big part of, most things that go wrong. Well, the COVID thing is attacking, elderly people. Why? Because as we get older, we break down. We can't fight things off, and it's at the cellular level we age, and that causes all these problems. And not to get into the science of that, but really it's the RNA when it's replicating the DNA and et cetera. It frays. It's often explained as if you have an old vinyl record, right, where the ridges aren't sharp anymore and you get a lot of skips. That's what happens when we get older as we're replicating the DNA. It's just not as clean as it was when we were younger. And the argument is it that, or is it the process? Is it the needle that's broken instead of the ridges on the record? So he has some amazing research that's coming out over the next couple of years. It's in the process now. They're doing a lot of trials. How to reverse the clock, how to actually keep you from getting older. And in some cases, take, and again, this is the goal of what his work is to take a 60-year-old and make him like a, 50-year-old or even a 40-year-old. And that's in mind, body, and look. So your mind sharper. For me, I'm losing my hair. That would come back. And when you're younger, you don't put on the weight as much. All these things, hormones, the whole 9 yards. That I think is the future of medicine. Is actually to prevent it all.
Does this guy have a beard? Does this guy have a really long beard?
Mm-hmm. No, if you had a computer, just Google him. He's like 54. Looks younger than I do.
The name sounds so familiar. Let me check it out. David.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I heard his name?
It's pretty
recently.
amazing. It's amazing stuff. And again, he cautions that it's still all in, mice type of research, but the stuff that he's been able to do has been mind blowing. And
oh my God, yeah, he was on Joe Rogan.
Yes.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I was like, why does that name sound so familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, I know exactly who you're talking about. Wow.
That's the stuff that keeps me up at night.
That's a crazy conversation right there, because we're not that far away from it, but at the same time, medicine doesn't, like, at least the people at the top, they don't want to take it in that direction. There's no money to be made if you're helping people crank back time. If you're actually,
yeah, you're right, because the money is not in the cure, right? It's in the maintenance.
Yeah, the treatment.
Yep.
Treating symptoms, not healing people. It's
correct.
It's kind of weird. I don't know, but how long do you think we have until we get there?
Well, who knows? But if you listen or believe his beliefs, and he's very open about, there's no hard timeline, but he's made some serious statements that, in the next 10 years there'll be a pill, that'll reverse everything. It's, I guess he said has to be a lot of advances to get there, and he caveats this and caveats that, but there's so much coming in the next even 2 years. He said it's going to blow everybody's mind. I'm all in on it, because he asked the question, he wants to live to 140 or 150, and everybody says no way, because they think, if you're so old and decrepit you can't do anything, what fun is it? He's like, then imagine you live to 150, but when you're 100 you feel like you're 60. Everybody goes, oh wait, well then yeah, sure, I'll live that long.
That's crazy to think about, to be 100 and feel like you're 60, and then by the time you're 140, do you know you can do anything. If you can't
several careers, right?
Yeah,
you have
right?
several careers. Most of the big people in most industries, especially in science, even Einstein, those type of people that are crazy smart, right? They all pass away. What if they lived another 30 years? What else could they have done? Right?
Oh my God.
That's where you go with that kind of thing.
I see where you're going. Wow. But see, the thing is, oh my God. See, do you think that's going to be available to like the average person, even when it is something that you can do?
I would assume no in the beginning. It'll be for the rich and famous type, but someone's going to figure out a way to make it. I mean, they did make ibuprofen, right? It's not just for rich people, and that thing's an amazing drug. It's used for everything. So Advil's amazing, right? It's an anti-inflammatory. It does so many great things. You just can't take it all the time because it'll hurt your stomach. But I don't know. The answer to the question is who knows, but it would be I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned before that you said the issue was with the knee is supposed to get like 15 times worse in the next years to come. Why exactly is it going to increase? Like, where's the 15%?
It's actually like 3 times the amount, right? So
Wow.
if there's right now they're spending so much money on it, but if there's 70,000 knee replacements a year, that could be 200,000 knee replacements in the next, I think, 30 years. Why? The population's older, and here in America, a lot of us, as we get older, get very heavy. We have a very obese population in general, and that's one of the huge contributors is being overweight.
Wow.
So, and everybody's fat and happy. So,
Makes sense. It really does. Wow. Well, I just want to go ahead and thank you so much for your time, because just being able to sit down, I don't know if I mentioned before, but the show is called A Time Shared. And the reason it's called A Time Shared is because even in a time like this where the world is kind of at a pause, people are just now starting to realize that valuing the time that you spend conversating, learning with one another, I think those are the most valuable moments in life. And we've become such a fast-paced society, and it's always the update and the next, and the instant gratification of likes and social media, and you can just do everything so fast that people forget to just slow down and just interact with each other, have a long form conversation like this,
mhm.
just sit down and jog up a memory. And it's just great when we're able to do something like this and provide someone out there with, you know, even just a form of comfort at the least. So I just want to go ahead and thank you so much for coming on. And, if you just have a message you want to leave somebody with today, you know, now would be perfect.
Okay. No, I appreciate you asking. It was very nice of you to do so, and I would agree that especially this long form interview format has been over the last several years something that I do in my downtime. If I'm not on the phone and I got some windshield time, I'll put on the Rogan, for example, and his are potentially like 2 and 3 hours, depending on even longer. And you get to see what kind of people he has on, and he's um, the whole he's made a process out of this that makes it very entertaining, and it is nice to spend time and be able to get past the headline snippet of a conversation, because that's how everybody talks about it. I mean, Trump, if you like him or don't like him, I don't care. He knows how to play the game with the one-liners that gets the news clip, right, good
Yeah.
and bad, right? I mean, he says some absolutely crazy things that they get to snip and take, and then he says some good things that they take and snip, because he talks in the the language of headlines. And it's about as far as it gets. When you get to sit and talk with somebody, and again, that's where I saw David Sinclair a couple different places, and then I saw him with his time on Rogan, and it was made me really stop and think. And I learned a lot. Let's put it this way: in this long form type of format, intermittent fasting, for example, huge fan. Just lost 20 pounds in the last 2 months.
Wow.
Um, all that stuff, because you're educating yourself, and there's a lot of value in what you're doing, because you get to pull out something a little further, a little deeper, that might impress a thought on somebody, where they go, well, let me look that up, or let me take a look at that. And that's good. That's what I did. So the whole format. And I think you're very good at it, by the way.
Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. Just trying to provide even one person, two people, whatever it is, if you can just change somebody's mindset and in their own
Just make them
way.
think. Just make them
Yeah,
think. Hmm.
exactly. Just in their own way. No one has the same path. Just everyone has their own little effect that they get from a situation. So if you can just help one person, it's all worth it to me. But
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think today you've definitely helped more than one person. We'll go ahead and say that. But Yeah,
Well, I don't know about
really,
that, but I appreciate it.
really has been great, man. Thank you so much for once again coming on, and we hope to see you again for sure. Hopefully,
Anytime.
hopefully next time in a live format. 'Cause we usually do these in person, but we've
Awesome.
had to adapt. But
Yeah, like I said, anytime, let me know.
sweet, thank you so much.
All right, Trevor. Have
All
a good
right,
one.
all right, man. You too. Thank you.
Take care.